Welcome to this episode. Have you subscribed yet? The Mystery of the Mountain Ghost's Marriage in Ghost Opera in Yunshan, Records of the Nuo Mask and the Sunken Coffin. Chapter 12, The Soul, Chasing Procession of Paper Figures on a Rainy Night. The torrential rain pounded on the blue tiles of the Yunshan Ancestral Hall like countless invisible hands running on the roof. Su Wanyan tightly gripped the half-Nuo opera mask, his knuckles turning white from the force. The human tooth in the eye socket of the mask glinted a bluish gray in the lightning. It was his mother Su Xunyang's decayed tooth, with a bloodstain from 1937 still sticking to the gap. He had just found the record of the twin fiends in the Ancestral Hall genealogy. Suddenly, the ink on page 19 of the genealogy wriggled like a living thing, gradually revealing the marks of Lin Yunyang's name being crossed out repeatedly. The 4 vermilion characters, "The sacrifice has been substituted," oozed blood beads, which landed on the back of his hand and perfectly coincided with the pagoda wood birthmark on his left ring finger. When the thunder outside the window exploded, he heard the soft sound of bamboo strips breaking coming from the direction of the paper making shop, the sound that only occurred when Chun Xiaozi made soul, summoning paper figures. The red dress in the wardrobe swayed gently in the wind. The red tree sap of the mountain god pagoda tree on the fabric was not yet dry, much like the blood-colored water lily floating on the river on the day his mother was laid in the coffin. Su Wanyan suddenly turned his head and found that the red dress that should have been at the courier station was now hanging in his wardrobe. The Nuo opera mask pattern embroidered on the hem was exactly the same as the pattern on his mother's coffin lid in his dream. The procession of paper figures appeared when the third bolt of lightning huagua the sky. 17 eyeless paper figures carried a red-flowered sedan chair. The movements of the sedan chair bearers were so neatly coordinated that it seemed they were controlled by the same string. The paper-pasted hems of their clothes were soaked by the heavy rain, yet they slowly moved towards the direction of the mountain god pagoda tree. Su Wanyan counted 3 times while pressing against the wall. Cold sweat soaked through his back. The paper figure at the end of the team was clearly wearing Chun Xiaozi's shroud, and the pagoda wood birthmark exposed from the cuff glowed faintly in the rainy night. "Brother Wenyan." A young girl's call suddenly came from inside the sedan chair. It was a Kui's voice. Su Wanyan's pupils suddenly constricted. He saw that on the part of the sedan chair curtain wet by the rain, a human face contour gradually emerged. It was a photo of him from his college days. A vermilion mole was dotted on the center of the forehead with a red pen, very much like the mark of a sacrifice in the river, god sacrifice. Even more eerily, blood was oozing from the eye sockets of each paper figure, converging into the patterns of the river god's vein on the blue stone slab, and finally pointing towards the mountain god pagoda tree behind the ancestral hall. He reached into his pocket for the half mask. When he touched the inner engraving, images from 1937 suddenly flashed through his mind. His mother, Su Xunyang, was kneeling under the mountain god pagoda tree. The incantations on her abdomen glowed faintly, and on the cuff of Lin Wanshan was embroidered the same thousand hands pattern as the paper figures. Amid the rumbling thunder, he heard the paper figure procession start humming the coffin sinking song, and the off-key melody was mixed with the sound of stone coffins rubbing at the bottom of the river. "Don't look back." A hoarse voice came from above. Su Wanyan looked up and saw that half a piece of red silk was floating from the window on the second floor of Chun Xiaozi's paper-making shop. Embroidered on it in gold thread were the 4 characters, "Twins fiends can substitute," ancient characters he had seen on the broken piece of the river, god steel. The red silk fluttered in the wind, revealing 19 river lanterns hanging behind it. Each lantern was pasted with his birth date. The red dress in the wardrobe made a soft rubbing sound. Su Wanyan suddenly turned around and saw a silver bracelet fragment pinned to the collar, exactly the one A Kui had worn before she disappeared. Engraved on the inner side of the fragment was a tiny Nuo opera mask, which perfectly matched the broken edge of the half mask in his hand. What made his hair stand on end even more was that, in the mirror reflection, his left eye was flowing out pagoda tree sawdust, and a coffin-shaped birthmark identical to Lin Yunyang's actually emerged on the back of his neck. The paper figure procession stopped under the mountain god pagoda tree. Through the rain curtain, Su Wanyan saw that the sedan chair opened automatically. Inside sat a paper figure in a red dress, with a face exactly like his, wearing the silver bracelet left by his mother on its chest. 2 human teeth were embedded in the eye sockets of the paper figure, exactly as he had dreamed of his mother's coffin last night. The paper figure in the front row suddenly turned its head. Its empty eye socket aimed at him, and it raised the pagoda, wood nail in its hand, the weapon used to pierce the heart of the sacrifice in the mountain ghost's marriage ceremony. 1147, don't look back. Chun Xiazi's words before his death suddenly rang in his ears. Only then did Su Wanyan notice that the old clock in the ancestral hall had somehow pointed to 1147. The sound of the gears turning mixed with the rain was very much like the sound of a stone coffin opening at the bottom of the river. He looked down at the ground. The blood footprints left by the paper figures actually outlined a 1,000 hands pattern in the mud, and at the end of each finger was marked with the name of a villager in Yinshan. Suddenly, rain turned even heavier. The face of the mountain god pagoda tree opened its mouth under the scouring of the water flow, revealing countless paper figures inside. Each paper figure had his name written on the back. The earliest one was marked 1937 Su Wanyan, and a half-piece of theater ticket was pinned to the chest of the paper figure, exactly the torn page from the bottom of Chun Xizi's coffin. Su Wanyan suddenly remembered the yellowed photo in the genealogy. The man in the red wedding dress had the same face as him, but with a sense of vicissitudes that didn't belong to him. Bang! The sound of glass breaking came from the direction of the paper-making shop. Su Wanyan clenched the mask and rushed into the rain curtain, but at the corner he saw an incredible scene. Chun Xiazi's paper-making shop was lit. In the window was placed the latest soul-summoning paper figure. The face of the paper figure was him in a red wedding dress, and on the back was written in cinnabar, the 20th human pillar. And what the paper figure was holding in its hand was exactly the 20th numbered Nuo opera mask that should have been at the bottom of the river. The human teeth in the eye sockets were dripping blood. Amid the thunder, he heard the paper figure procession start chanting in unison. The twin fiends return, the 1,000 hands open, the human pillar's blood, sacrifices to the mountain god pagoda tree, ... Su Wanyan looked down and found that his reflection had somehow split into 2. One was wearing a Nuo opera mask, and the other was tied with a river lantern bell. Their shadows overlapped in the puddle, forming the ancient 1,000 hands pattern on the bark of the mountain god pagoda tree. And in the distance, red tree sap was flowing down the eye corner of the face of the mountain god pagoda tree, much like the blood-colored moonlight he had seen on the river on the day his mother was laid in the coffin. He reached into his pocket for the broken piece of the river god steel. The fresh mark at the gap suddenly stung his palm. It was the engraving on Chun Xiazi's tombstone. The signature year was 1903, 30 years earlier than Chun Xiazi's death. The rain washed over the inscriptions. The ancient characters twin fiends destroy the god's eye gradually blurred, revealing the covered return and sacrifice to heaven below. The paper figure procession started to speed up. The sedan chair dragged a long blood stain in the mud. Su Wanyan suddenly remembered what his mother had written in her diary. Everyone who has worn a mask will eventually become a sacrifice in the stone coffin at the bottom of the river, and their human teeth are forming the teeth of the 1,000-hand corpse god. He looked at the paper figure in the sedan chair and found that the corner of its mouth was splitting open, revealing the same texture as the bark of the mountain god pagoda tree. In the rain curtain, a figure wearing a bamboo hat walked out from the paper-making shop. Half of the Luo men symbol, a severed 1,000 hand, was exposed from the cuff. The man stuffed something into the sedan chair. When he turned around, Su Wanyan saw the pagoda tree root-shaped scar on the back of his neck, exactly the mark in the photo in the hidden compartment of Lin Wanshan's office. When the sedan chair passed by him, a note was knocked to the ground by the rain. Su Wanyan picked it up. It was Chun Xiazi's handwriting. In the Nuo opera troupe in 1937, the left ring finger of everyone was engraved with a birthmark, including your mother. Amid the rumbling thunder, he looked up and saw that the paper figure in the sedan chair was pressing its face against the sedan chair curtain. The wet paper skin gradually melted, revealing the river god incantations engraved underneath. And at the center of the incantations were his and Lin Yunyang's overlapping birth dates. When the paper figure Procession disappeared into the shadow of the mountain god pagoda tree, Su Wanyan found that his red dress had somehow been soaked by the rain. His left ring finger under the fabric was becoming ligneous, and the texture was exactly the same as the annual rings of the mountain god pagoda tree. He touched the collar. The silver bracelet left by his mother had somehow become extremely hot. The engraving on the inner ring of the bracelet became visible in the rain. It was the handle pattern of Nuwa's broken knife, and the end of the pattern pointed straight in the direction of Qian. The rain was still pouring. Page 19 of the genealogy in the Yinshan Ancestral Hall suddenly flipped without wind, revealing a half-piece of photo Jiayanit. On the sacrificial platform in 1937, Su Xunyang was holding a baby in swaddling clothes. The Nuo opera mask embroidered on the swaddling clothes was dripping blood, and on the left ring finger of the baby was clearly printed the same pagoda wood birthmark as his. The end of this episode. The story continues. Subscribe now.